I can't take these, sir. John Winter's weathered hands trembled as he pushed the velvet box across the pawn shop counter, metals glinting under fluorescent lights. Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Distinguished Service Cross. 96 years old, and it had come to this trading glory for groceries. Please, he whispered, voice cracking, I just need to eat. Before we continue with John's story, hit that subscribe button right now. Watch this entire journey with us and comment below which city you are watching from. I want to see how far John's story travels across this country. You won't believe what happens next. Sarah Mallory had worked at Denton's Pawn and Trade for 11 years, and she thought she'd seen everything. But this was different. The old man standing before her wore a pale blue button-down shirt pressed so crisp it could cut paper. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine despite visible cracks in the leather. Everything about him screamed dignity, everything except his eyes. Those eyes were hollow, defeated, the eyes of a man who'd run out of options. Sir, I can't accept these, Sarah said again, her voice barely above a whisper. John Winters opened the velvet box slowly like he was opening a coffin. Inside 3 metals lay nestled against faded purple fabric. How much can you give me? John asked quietly. His voice was steady, controlled. Military bearings still intact after all these years. Sarah felt her stomach twist. Sir, these are yours, your medals. I'm aware of what they are, young lady. No anger in his voice, just exhaustion. I need to know what they're worth. She stared at the medals, then back at his face. Deep lines carved around his eyes and mouth. Age spots dotted his hands. But his jaw was set firm, shoulders squared, despite the slight tremor in his fingers. What do you need money for? The question slipped out before she could stop it. John's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he might snap at her. Instead, his shoulders sagged just slightly. Groceries, he said. My Social Security check got delayed. Some computer error at the VA. They say it'll be another 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Sarah's voice rose. They can't just... They can, John interrupted. And they did. Sarah looked down at the medals again. The Purple Heart sat in the center, flanked by the Bronze Star and Distinguished Service Cross. Sir, I can't. These are priceless. Everything has a price. John's finger tapped the counter, a nervous gesture that seemed out of place in such a composed man. I served in World War II, Normandy Beach, Battle of the Bulge. I watched men die in the snow, their blood turning the ice red. You know what we thought about during those battles? Sarah shook her head, unable to speak. Food. We thought about food, hot meals, our mother's cooking, and now here I am 78 years later and I still can't eat. A bitter laugh escaped his lips. Funny how life circles back. There has to be another way, Sarah insisted. Food banks, churches. I've tried. John's voice remained level, but his fingers gripped the counter edge. The food bank ran out 2 days ago. Won't get another shipment until Friday. The church has already helped me 3 times this month. I have pride left, miss. Not much, but some. Sarah felt tears burning behind her eyes. This wasn't right. This wasn't how it was supposed to work. Men like John Winters were supposed to be taken care of. They'd earned it. They'd bled for it. What's your name, sir? John Winters. Mr. Winters, I'm going to help you, but not like this. Sarah pulled out her phone. Give me a minute. John's eyes narrowed. What are you doing? Something I should have done the second you walked in here. She opened Facebook, hands shaking as she typed. The words came faster than she could think them through. Urgent, 96-year-old World War II veteran trying to sell his Purple Heart Bronze Star and Distinguished Service Cross for groceries. His VA check is delayed 2 weeks. He's standing in front of me right now, and I will not let him sell these medals. Denton community, we need to do better. This man stormed Normandy Beach. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and now he can't afford to eat. If anyone can help, please contact me immediately. She hit post before she could second-guess herself. John's face had gone rigid. What did you just do? I posted about you on the community page. You had no right. You have every right, Mr. Winters. Every right to eat, every right to dignity, and I'll be damned if I watch you sell your medals when this town can help. John's hands were shaking now, and not from age. You don't understand. I don't want charity. I don't want pity. It's not charity, it's what you're owed. I'm owed nothing. The words came out sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. Sarah flinched, but she didn't back down. "You're wrong," she said quietly. "You're owed everything." John opened his mouth to argue, but Sarah's phone buzzed, then buzzed again and again. She looked down at the screen. Comments were flooding in. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What? People are responding. A lot of people." John moved around the counter faster than she expected a 96-year-old man could move. He looked at her phone screen. The comments were multiplying by the second. "I can bring groceries right now. Where is he? This is shameful. Our veterans deserve better. I'm on my way with food. Someone start a fund. I'll donate." John's breath caught in his throat. "They don't even know me." "They know enough." Sarah's phone rang. She didn't recognize the number. "Hello? This Sarah Mallory?" A man's voice rough and deep. "Yes, who's this?" "Name's Sarge. I'm calling about the veteran." "Are you with the VA?" "No, ma'am. I'm with the Hells Angels." Sarah nearly dropped her phone. "The what?" "The Hells Angels. Motorcycle club. We take care of veterans. It's what we do." John was watching her, trying to read her expression. "I don't understand," Sarah said. "Your post went viral, ma'am." "Oh, I know, ma'am. Ma'am, it's all over Facebook now. Shared 2,000 times in the last 10 minutes. My chapter in Oklahoma City saw it. We're about 45 minutes out from Denton." "Oklahoma City, that's an hour away." 45 minutes if you ride fast. Listen, we want to help this man. Is he still there?" Sarah looked at John, who was staring at his medals like he might never see them again. "Yes, he's here." "Good. Keep him there. We're on our way. Tell him help is coming." "How many of you?" There was a pause on the line. Then Sarge spoke again, and Sarah heard pride in his voice. 195. Sarah's legs went weak. "I'm sorry, did you say 195? Hells Angels are riding to Denton right now, for John Winters. We'll be there in 40 minutes. The line went dead. Sarah stood frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. "Who was that?" John asked. "The Hells Angels." John blinked. "The motorcycle gang. They prefer club, and they're coming here to help you." "How many?" Sarah swallowed hard. 195. For the first time since he'd walked into the pawn shop, John Winters looked genuinely shocked. His mouth opened, then closed. He sat down heavily in the chair behind the counter. "That's not possible," he whispered. "That's what the man said." "Why would they?" "Because you're a veteran, and apparently that matters to them." John's hands went to his face. His shoulders started to shake. For a terrible moment, Sarah thought he was having a heart attack. Then she realized he was crying. "Mr. Winters, I don't deserve this." His voice broke completely. "I don't deserve any of this." Sarah knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "Yes, you do. You absolutely do. You don't understand what I've done." "What are you talking about?" John looked up at her, tears streaming down his weathered face. "The medals, the Bronze Star. You know how I got it." Sarah shook her head. "I was supposed to save 6 men from a burning tank. I only saved 5. The 6th man was my best friend, Tommy Rodriguez. I could hear him screaming inside that tank. The fire was too hot. I couldn't get to him. I tried, God knows I tried, but I couldn't reach him." His voice cracked. "They gave me a medal for saving 5 men. But I've lived 78 years knowing I let Tommy burn to death. So you tell me, Sarah, do I deserve help? Do I deserve anything?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy and raw and full of decades of guilt. Sarah's phone buzzed again. More comments, more offers, more people wanting to help. "Mr. Winters," she said quietly, "did you try to save him?" "Of course I tried." "Did you risk your own life?" "That doesn't matter. Answer the question. Did you risk your own life to save Tommy Rodriguez?" John's jaw worked. "Yes." "Then you did everything you could, and Tommy would tell you the same thing if he were here." "You don't know that?" "Yes, I do, because I know what soldiers are made of. My daddy was in Vietnam. He came home with ghosts too. He spent 30 years thinking he should have done more, saved more, been more. You know what killed him?" John shook his head. "Guilt. The guilt ate him alive until there was nothing left but a shell. Don't do that to yourself, not after everything you have survived." Before John could respond, Sarah's phone rang again. Different number. Hello, Sarah Mallory, a woman's voice this time. Yes. My name is Patricia Chen. I'm a reporter with News Channel 12. I saw your post about John Winters. Is he really there? I'm not giving interviews right now. I'm not asking for an interview. I'm asking if you'll let us set up a fund. Public donations. We want to help. Sarah looked at John. A news station wants to set up a donation fund for you. John's eyes went wide. No, absolutely not. Mr. Winters, I said no, I'm not some charity case on the news. Sarah put the phone back to her ear. Can I call you back? Please do, we want to help. This story matters. Sarah hung up and turned to John. Why won't you let people help you? Because I'm not worth it. Stop saying that. It's true, you want to know why my check got delayed because I forgot to verify my address. I forgot. My mind isn't what it used to be. I forget things now, important things. Last week I left the stove on for 6 hours, nearly burned my house down. The week before I got lost driving to the grocery store, a store I've been going to for 20 years. His voice dropped to a whisper. I'm losing myself, Sarah, piece by piece, and I'm terrified. Sarah felt her heart crack. Have you seen a doctor? Can't afford it. My Medicare doesn't cover everything and the copays add up. I make $2 too much a month to qualify for Medicaid. $2. So I'm stuck in this middle ground where I can't afford help, but I make too much to get it. That's insane. That's America. John laughed bitterly. I fought for this country, killed for this country, and now it's killing me. Slowly. One forgotten bill at a time. One missed appointment, one delayed check. Sarah's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The post had been shared 5,000 times now. Comments were coming in faster than she could read them. Mr. Winters, look at this. She showed him the phone. Look at how many people want to help. This isn't pity. This is gratitude. John stared at the screen. His eyes moved over the comments, reading them one by one. My grandfather was in World War II. He'd be ashamed of how we're treating our veterans. I'm bringing food. What's the address? Started a GoFundMe. Already at $800. This man deserves better. We all owe him better. John's hands trembled as he read. I don't know these people. They know you, or they know men like you, and they want to help. But the bikers are on their way, and you're going to accept their help, and the news station's help, and every bit of help offered to you, because you earned it, Mr. Winters. Not just by fighting in a war, but by living with dignity, even when the system failed you. John was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke so softly, Sarah almost missed it. I'm scared. Of what? Of accepting help. Of letting people see how bad things have gotten. Of admitting I can't do this alone anymore. Sarah knelt in front of him again. You're not alone. You never were. You just didn't know how to ask. I don't know how to accept it either. Then we'll figure it out together. Outside, Sarah heard something. A low rumble, distant but growing closer. Like thunder, but steady. Rhythmic. John heard it too. What is that? Sarah walked to the window and looked out. Her breath caught. The street was filling with motorcycles. Dozens of them. Black leather, chrome pipes, Hell's Angels patches on vests and jackets. They weren't riding fast or reckless. They were riding in formation, controlled and deliberate, like a military convoy. Mr. Winters, Sarah said quietly, they're here. John stood slowly, using the counter for support. He walked to the window and looked out. The motorcycles were parking now, filling every space on the street. Riders dismounting, more kept coming. The rumble of engines filled the air like a heartbeat. That's not 195, John whispered. What? There's too many, way too many. Sarah counted. He was right. There had to be at least 250 motorcycles out there. The shop door opened. A man walked in, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a leather vest covered in patches. His beard was gray, streaked with white. His eyes were sharp and assessing. John Winters? He asked. John straightened, old military bearing, kicking in automatically. That's me. The man extended his hand. Name's Sarge. I called ahead. John shook his hand and Sarah saw something pass between the two men. Recognition, understanding. The unspoken language of soldiers. You came, John said simply. Course we came. You're a veteran. That makes you family. More bikers were filing into the shop now. The small space was filling fast with leather and denim and the smell of engine oil. I counted your bikes, John said. That's more than 195. Sarge grinned. Word spread fast. Oklahoma City chapter was supposed to be 195, but then Tulsa heard, and Wichita, and Kansas City, chapters from 4 states. Mr. Winters, 273 riders, all for you. John's legs buckled. 2 bikers caught him easing him into a chair. I don't understand, John whispered. Why? A younger biker stepped forward, couldn't have been more than 30. My grandfather was at Normandy, didn't make it off the beach. Every time I ride for him. When I heard about you, I knew I had to come. An older biker spoke up next, his voice rough from years of cigarettes. I'm Vietnam. Nobody thanked us when we came home. Nobody helped us. But I'll be damned if I let that happen to a World War II vet. You deserve better. Another voice, this one female, a woman with silver hair and kind eyes. My husband died in Iraq. He always said the World War II vets were the real heroes. He'd want me here. One by one, the bikers spoke. Each had a reason, a connection, a debt they felt they owed. John listened to all of them, tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to hide them anymore. Sarge knelt in front of John's chair, putting them at eye level. Mr. Winters, we're not here for charity. We're here because you're owed. This country owes you, and we're going to make sure you get what you're owed. I just needed groceries, John said weakly. We know, and you're going to get groceries. But first, we need to talk about your house. John's eyes widened. How do you know about my house? Your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, saw the Facebook post. She called us, said your roof's been leaking for 6 months, said you've been putting buckets in the attic to catch the water. John's face flushed red. That's none of your... And she said your furnace is shot and your porch steps are rotting through and you're too proud to ask for help fixing any of it. I can handle my own. No, you can't. Sarge's voice was gentle but firm. And that's okay. None of us can handle everything alone. That's why we've got each other. A biker near the door spoke up. I'm a roofer. I can fix that leak. Another voice. I do HVAC. I'll get you a new furnace. I'm a carpenter. Those steps are as good as done. I'm an electrician. Let me check your wiring while we're at it. The offers came faster than Sarah could track. Plumbers, painters, landscapers, every trade imaginable, all volunteering their time. John was shaking his head. I can't accept all this. It's too much. Sarge gripped John's shoulder. Listen to me. You were 19 years old when you hit that beach in Normandy. 19. Most of these kids today can't even do their own laundry at 19. But you ran into gunfire. You watched your friends die. You carried wounded men through minefields. You earned every bit of help we're offering and more. But no buts. This is happening. The only question is whether you're going to fight us on it or accept it with grace. John looked around the shop at all the faces staring at him. I'm staring at him. Hard men and women with soft eyes, rough exteriors hiding tender hearts. Why do you all care so much? He asked. The female biker who'd lost her husband in Iraq stepped forward. Because if we don't take care of our veterans, who will? The government clearly isn't. So it falls to us, and we're honored to do it. Sarge stood up addressing the crowd. All right, listen up. We need teams. Roofing team meet in the parking lot in 5. HVAC and electrical same. Carpentry, you're with me. The rest of you were going grocery shopping. Wait, John said. My medals. Sarah picked up the velvet box from the counter and placed it firmly in John's hands. These stay with you, where they belong. John clutched the box to his chest like a lifeline. Sarge pulled out his phone. What's your address, Mr. Winters? John gave it to him, voice numb with shock. Good. Half the crew's going to your house to start work. The other half is taking you shopping. And I mean real shopping, not just bread and milk. We're filling that pantry. I can't afford. You're not paying. The club is. We took up a collection before we even left Oklahoma City. Raised $4,000 in 20 minutes. John's mouth fell open. 4,000. And that's just the start. The GoFundMe is at 12,000 now. News stations from Dallas and Oklahoma City want to cover the story. This is bigger than groceries, Mr. Winters. This is about showing this country how we treat our heroes. Sarah's phone rang again. News Channel 12. I should take this, she said. Take it, Sarge said. We've got John. Sarah answered as she walked to the back room. Hello. Sarah, it's Patricia Chen again. We want to do a live broadcast from the pawn shop. Can we come now? There are 273 bikers here. Even better, this is exactly the story we need. Real Americans taking care of their own. Can we come? Sarah looked back at John, surrounded by bikers who were planning his home repairs like a military operation. Yeah, she said, come now. She hung up and returned to the main room. News is coming. They want to film. John looked panicked. I can't be on TV looking like this. I'm a mess. A biker laughed. Brother, you look better than most of us on our best day. Another biker pulled off his vest and handed it to John. Here, wear this. John stared at the vest. It was covered in patches, Hell's Angels, veteran patches, American flags. I can't wear your vest. You can and you will. You're an honorary member now. That's how this works. Slowly, with trembling hands, John put on the vest. It hung loose on his thin frame, but somehow it looked right. Sarge grinned. Now you look like one of us. The bikers erupted in cheers and applause. John stood there wearing a Hell's Angels vest, surrounded by 273 bikers who'd ridden from 4 states to help him. His medals were clutched in one hand. Tears streamed down his face. I don't know what to say, he whispered. Sarge put his arm around John's shoulders. You don't have to say anything. Just let us help. That's all we ask. Outside, the rumble of more motorcycles filled the air. Sarah looked out the window and saw even more bikes arriving. The word was still spreading. This wasn't just about groceries anymore. This wasn't even just about John Winters. This was about every forgotten veteran, every delayed check, every proud man or woman too ashamed to ask for help. And the Hells Angels had just declared war on that shame. News vans were pulling up now. Cameras were coming out. Reporters were scrambling to get the story. But inside Denton's Pawn and Trade, none of that mattered. All that mattered was an old soldier who'd finally found his tribe, and a community that refused to let him fall. The first news van screeched to a halt outside the pawn shop just as Sarge was organizing the bikers into teams. Patricia Chen jumped out before her cameraman had even killed the engine, her heels clicking against the pavement as she rushed toward the entrance. Wait, Sarah called out, stepping between Patricia and the door. You can't just barge in there. Patricia stopped, microphone in hand. This is the story of the year. A 96-year-old veteran selling his medals and the Hells Angels riding in to save him. Do you have any idea how powerful this is? I know exactly how powerful it is. That's why you need to be careful. John's overwhelmed. He's been crying for the last 20 minutes. All the more reason to capture this moment. No, Sarah crossed her arms. All the more reason to give him dignity. You want the story, fine, but you do it on his terms, not yours. Patricia's jaw tightened, but she nodded. What do you suggest? Give him 5 minutes. Let him compose himself. Then you can ask if he's willing to talk. Inside the shop, John was sitting in the chair, still wearing the Hells Angels vest. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. You okay, brother? Sarge asked, kneeling beside him. I don't know. I feel like I'm dreaming. Or having a stroke. Maybe both. One of the younger bikers laughed. You're not having a stroke. This is real. That's what worries me, John whispered. What happens when you all leave, when the cameras go away, when everyone forgets about the old man who couldn't feed himself? The laughter died. Sarge's expression hardened. Look at me, he said. John met his eyes. We're not forgetting. This isn't some feel-good story we walk away from. You're family now. That means we check on you. That means we make sure you're okay. Every week, every month, for as long as you need us. You can't promise that. I just did. And I don't break promises to brothers. A biker near the window spoke up. Cameras are here. John's whole body tensed. I can't do this. Yes, you can, Sarah said, walking back into the shop. But only if you want to. The reporter wants to talk to you, but I told her it's your choice. What would I even say? Sarge stood up. You tell the truth about the medals, about the VA check, about how the system failed you, because if you don't, nothing changes. Other veterans will keep falling through the cracks. John looked down at his medals still clutched in his hand. Tommy would have known what to say. He was always better with words. Tommy, Sarge asked. My best friend died in a tank fire in '44. I couldn't save him. The room went quiet. Every biker in that shop understood survivor's guilt. They'd all lost people. Brothers in arms, friends who didn't make it home. The female biker who'd lost her husband stepped forward. What would Tommy want you to do? John thought for a long moment. He'd want me to fight. He always said, I gave up too easy on myself. Then fight, talk to that reporter, tell the world what's happening to veterans. Make them listen. John took a deep breath and stood up. His legs were still shaky, but his jaw was set. Okay, he said. I'll do it. Sarah opened the door. Patricia Chen walked in slowly, her cameraman following. She'd left the aggressive reporter persona outside. Now she just looked like a woman who cared. Mr. Winters, she said softly. I'm Patricia Chen. Thank you for agreeing to talk. John nodded stiffly. I don't know what you want me to say. Just tell me what happened. Start from the beginning. The cameraman raised his camera. The red light came on. John stared at it like it was a loaded gun. My social security check was delayed, he started, voice rough. Computer error at the VA. They said 2 weeks. I had $8 to my name. I needed food. So you came here to sell your medals. I didn't want to, but I was out of options. Food banks were empty. Churches had already helped me too much. I couldn't ask again. Patricia's voice was gentle. What do these medals mean to you? John looked down at them. Everything and nothing. They're proof I survived when better men didn't. Every time I look at them, I see the faces of the guys who should have gotten them instead of me. You earned them. Did I? John's voice cracked. I got the Bronze Star for saving 5 men from a burning tank. But there were 6 men in that tank. The 6th was Tommy Rodriguez. My best friend. I can still hear him screaming. I couldn't reach him. The fire was too hot. Patricia's eyes were wet. Behind the camera, her cameraman was blinking rapidly. Mr. Winters, you risked your life trying to save him. Trying doesn't bring him back. I've lived 78 years that Tommy didn't get. Every birthday, every Christmas, every moment of happiness felt stolen. Like I was living the life he should have had. Sarge put his hand on John's shoulder. That's survivor's guilt talking. Your friend wouldn't want you to suffer. How would you know? Because I've been there. Iraq, 2007. My best friend stepped on an IED meant for me. I watched him die. Took me 15 years to forgive myself for surviving. And you know what finally helped? John shook his head, realizing that honoring his memory didn't mean destroying myself. It meant living well, living fully, for both of us. John's shoulders started shaking again. Patricia gestured to her cameraman to keep rolling. Mr. Winters, she said, what do you want people to know? He looked directly at the camera. I want them to know this isn't about me. There are thousands of veterans out there right now who are one missed check away from homelessness, one medical bill away from bankruptcy. The system is broken, and we're the ones paying for it. What needs to change? Everything. The VA needs to process checks faster. Medicare needs to cover more. Social Security needs to be enough to actually live on. We fought for this country, we bled for it, and now we're being told we're too expensive to take care of. His voice was rising, gaining strength. The shaking had stopped. I'm 96 years old. I should be spending my last years in peace. Instead, I'm counting pennies and skipping meals. That's not right. That's not what we fought for. Patricia turned to Sarge. And the Hells Angels? Why are you here? Because somebody has to be. If the government won't take care of our veterans, we will. What are you planning to do for Mr. Winters? Fix his roof, replace his furnace, repair his porch, fill his pantry, whatever he needs. And we're not stopping with him. This is a wake-up call. Every chapter across the country is going to start looking for veterans who need help. This is our mission now. A biker near the back shouted, "Damn right it is!" The others erupted in agreement, voices echoing off the walls. Patricia smiled. That's quite a commitment. It's the least we can do, Sarge said. These men and women gave everything for us. Time to return the favor. The shop door burst open. A young man rushed in, out of breath. Sorry I'm late, he gasped. I'm with the GoFundMe team. The fund for Mr. Winters just hit $30,000. The room exploded. Bikers were cheering, clapping each other on the back. Sarah grabbed John's arm to keep him from falling. 30,000, John whispered. That can't be right. The young man pulled out his phone, showing the screen to John. See for yourself, and it's still climbing. $500 just came in while I was walking through the door. John stared at the numbers, unable to process them. I don't understand. I don't know these people. They know you now, Patricia said, and they want to help. Sarah's phone rang again. She stepped outside to answer. Sarah Mallory. Yes. This is Senator Davidson's office. The senator saw the story about John Winters. He wants to meet with Mr. Winters tomorrow to discuss VA reform. Sarah's heart skipped. Are you serious? Completely. The senator is appalled by what happened. He wants to use Mr. Winters' story to push for legislation. Hold on. Sarah ran back inside. John, there's a senator on the phone. He wants to meet with you about VA reform. John looked at her like she'd grown a second head. A senator. Senator Davidson. He saw the news coverage. Sarge grinned. This is getting bigger than we thought. John took Sarah's phone with trembling hands. Hello. Mr. Winters, this is Senator Davidson. First, let me say thank you for your service. Second, I want to apologize on behalf of our government for failing you. I don't need apologies. I need change. And you'll get it. I'm introducing a bill next week to reform VA check processing. No more delays, no more computer errors. If your check is late, you get an emergency advance within 24 hours. John sat down hard. You'd do that? I should have done it years ago. Your story opened my eyes. How many other veterans are suffering in silence? Too many. Then help me fix it. Come to Washington. Testify before Congress. Tell them what you told that reporter. Make them listen. I'm 96 years old. I can barely make it to the grocery store. We'll arrange everything. Transportation, hotel, meals, all covered. All you have to do is show up and tell the truth. John looked around the room, at the bikers who'd ridden hundreds of miles for him, at Sarah who'd refused to let him sell his medals, at the reporter who was giving him a voice. Okay, he said, I'll do it. The bikers erupted again. Sarge pulled John into a bear hug. That's my brother, he shouted. Patricia's phone was ringing now. She answered, listen, then her eyes went wide. Mr. Winters, that was my producer. Good Morning America wants you on tomorrow's show. Live interview. John felt dizzy. This is too much. It's happening too fast. This is what change looks like, Sarge said. Fast and loud and impossible to ignore. Another biker's phone rang. Then another, then 5 more. Everyone was getting calls, texts, messages. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from her manager at the pawn shop. Close the shop. Take the rest of the week off. This is more important. She showed John the message. My boss wants me to help you through all this. You don't have to. I want to. Someone needs to keep track of everything that's happening. A biker pushed through the crowd. Mr. Winters, my wife's a lawyer. She specializes in elder care. She wants to help you set up a trust for the GoFundMe money. Make sure it's protected. Another voice. My sister works at the VA. She's already filed an emergency claim for your delayed check. Should be processed by tomorrow. I run a home care service, a female biker said. We'll send someone good to check on you 3 times a week. No charge. The offers kept coming faster than John could process. His head was spinning. Stop, he said quietly. No one heard him. Stop, he shouted. The room fell silent. John stood up, swaying slightly. I need air, please. I just need a minute. Sarge immediately cleared a path. Give him space. Everyone out. The bikers filed out quickly, no arguments. Within 30 seconds, the shop was empty except for John, Sarah, and Sarge. John walked to the window, staring out at the crowd of motorcycles and news vans. This morning I woke up alone, he said. I ate half a can of soup for breakfast because that's all I had. I spent 2 hours working up the courage to bring my medals here. I thought I was invisible. Forgotten. You're not, Sarah said. I know that now. But it's terrifying. All these people looking at me expecting something. What if I let them down? Sarge walked over to stand beside him. You won't. How can you be sure about? Because you already did the hardest part. You asked for help. Everything else is just details. John's reflection stared back at him from the window. An old man in a Hells Angels vest surrounded by more support than he'd had in decades. I wish Tommy could see this, he whispered. Maybe he can, Sarge said. Maybe that's why it's happening. Maybe he's been watching out for you all along, waiting for the right moment. You believe in that stuff, heaven and angels. I believe in brothers looking out for each other, whether they're here or gone. Outside, a commotion started, voices raised, shouting. Sarah looked out the window. Oh no. What? John asked. There's a man out there. He's yelling at the bikers. Says this whole thing is a publicity stunt. Sarge's jaw tightened. Stay here. He walked outside. Sarah and John watched through the window. The man was in his 50s, red-faced and angry. This is fake. These bikers don't care about veterans. They're just using this old man for attention. Sarge walked up slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Who are you? Name's Keith Brennan. I'm a veteran too. Marines, and I'm calling bullshit on this whole show. What makes you think it's fake? Because where were you all when I needed help? Huh? Where were the Hells Angels when I lost my house? When I was sleeping in my car, I didn't get any GoFundMe. I didn't get any news coverage. Just him. He pointed at the pawn shop. Just the cute old World War II guy with his medals. The other bikers were getting agitated, but Sarge held up his hand, keeping them back. You're right, Sarge said. Keith blinked. What? You're absolutely right. We should have been there for you too, and we weren't. That's on us. I don't want your pity now. Not pity, help. When's the last time you ate? Keith's anger faltered. What? When's the last time you had a real meal? I don't see how that's... Answer the question, Marine. Keith's shoulders slumped. 2 days ago, Sarge turned to the other bikers. Who's got food? 5 bikers immediately pulled out sandwiches, protein bars, water bottles. They handed them to Keith without a word. Keith stared at the food, then at Sarge. I don't understand. You're a veteran. That makes you family. And we failed you. We're going to fix that right now. What do you need? I need a job. I need a place to live. I need... His voice broke. I need people to stop looking at me like I'm trash. Done. Jake, you still hiring at the construction company? One of the bikers stepped forward. Always got room for a Marine. Can you start Monday? Keith nodded, unable to speak. Lisa, your rental property's still vacant. The female biker who'd lost her husband spoke up. First month free for a veteran. Sarge looked back at Keith. That worked for you. Keith's face crumpled. He started crying right there in the middle of the street. Inside the pawn shop, John watched with tears streaming down his face. That could have been me, he whispered, angry and alone, thinking nobody cared. Sarah put her hand on his shoulder. But it's not you, and it's not going to be him either. Not anymore. Sarge brought Keith inside. The Marine's face was blotchy from crying. Mr. Winters, Sarge said, this is Keith Brennan, Marines Afghanistan veteran. He's joining the family. John stood up and extended his hand. Keith shook it. Thank you for your service, John said. Keith laughed bitterly. I should be saying that to you. We both served. That's all that matters. I came here to cause trouble. I was angry. You had every right to be angry. The system failed you too. Keith looked at the medal still sitting on the counter. Bronze Star Distinguished Service Cross. You're a real hero. No, I'm just a man who survived, same as you. I don't have any medals. Doesn't matter. You wore the uniform. You served. That's enough. Something shifted in Keith's expression. The anger drained away, replaced by something softer. Hope, maybe. Patricia Chen was filming everything. Her cameraman had tears on his cheeks. This is incredible, she whispered to Sarah. This is what America should be. This is what it can be, Sarah corrected, when we decide to take care of each other. Sarge's phone rang. He answered, listened, then his face broke into a huge grin. Mr. Winters, you're not going to believe this. What now? That was the CEO of Harley Davidson. They want to give you a motorcycle. John laughed in disbelief. I'm 96 years old. I can't ride a motorcycle. It's symbolic. They want to honor you at their headquarters in Milwaukee, fly you out, put you up in a hotel, give you a custom bike with your name on it. This is insane. This is momentum, and we're riding it all the way to Washington. More phones were ringing, more offers coming on in. A mattress company wanted to donate a bed. A grocery chain wanted to provide free food for life. A medical supply company wanted to send a home health aide. John sat back down, overwhelmed. I can't keep track of all this. Sarah pulled out a notebook. I will. Every offer, every call, every commitment. I'll write it all down. Why are you doing this? Because somebody has to, and because you matter. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're a good man who got dealt a bad hand. I know you deserve better. That's all I need to know. A young woman pushed through the crowd outside and knocked on the door. Sarah let her in. Are you John Winters? The woman asked. Yes. My grandfather was at Normandy. He died when I was 10. I never got to thank him for what he did. So I'm thanking you instead. She handed him an envelope. There's $500 in there. It's everything I have in my savings. Please take it. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. Because if my grandfather were alive and needed help, I'd want someone to do the same for him. She hugged John quickly, then left before he could argue. John opened the envelope. 5 $100 bills. She gave me everything, he whispered. People are good, Sarge said. We just forget sometimes. Take something like this to remind us. The door opened again. An elderly woman walked in using a walker. Mr. Winters, my name is Dorothy Chen. I'm Patricia's mother. I was a nurse during Korea. I heard what happened to you and I had to come. She pulled out a small box and handed it to John. Inside was a nursing corps pin from the Korean War. This was mine, she said. I want you to have it, to remind you that you're not alone. We all served, we all sacrificed, and we all deserve better. John couldn't speak. He just held the pin staring at it. Dorothy leaned on her walker, looking him in the eye. Fight for us, John. When you go to Washington, fight for all of us. The forgotten ones, the delayed checks, the denied claims. Make them hear us. I will, John managed. I promise. Dorothy smiled. I know you will. You're a fighter. I can see it in your eyes. She patted his hand and walked back out. Sarah added Dorothy's name to her list. The notebook was filling up fast. Sarge checked his watch. It's almost 5. We should get you home, Mr. Winters. Get you fed, get you rested. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. John nodded, exhausted. Can you walk? Sarge asked. I think so. But when John tried to stand, his legs wouldn't cooperate. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving nothing but bone-deep fatigue. 2 bikers immediately stepped forward, helping him up. We've got you, brother, one of them said. They walked him outside. The crowd of bikers parted, creating a path. Every single one of them saluted as he passed. John stopped halfway through, looking at all the faces, young and old, men and women, all united by one thing: respect. Thank you, he said, voice carrying across the street. All of you. Thank you. The bikers didn't cheer this time. They just stood there, hands raised in salute, honoring the man they'd come to help. Sarge led John to a motorcycle with a sidecar. Ever ridden in one of these? Not since 1946. Then you're overdue. They helped John into the sidecar, making sure he was secure. Sarah climbed on the back of another bike. The convoy started moving, 273 motorcycles escorting John Winters home. People came out of their houses to watch. They lined the streets, phones out filming. John waved at them and they waved back. For the first time in longer than he could remember, John Winters didn't feel invisible. He felt seen. He felt valued. He felt like he mattered. And as the motorcycles rumbled through the streets of Denton, John clutched his medals in one hand and Dorothy's nursing pin in the other, and he let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The motorcycles pulled up to John's house just as the sun was setting. The small ranch-style home looked worse than Sarah had imagined. The roof sagged and the middle shingles missing in patches. The porch steps were rotted through yellow caution tape wrapped around them. Paint peeled from the siding in long strips. John stared at his own house like he was seeing it for the first time. I've been living here for 43 years, he said quietly. I didn't realize how bad it got. Sarge helped him out of the sidecar. You've been focused on surviving. That doesn't leave much energy for maintenance. A biker was already on the roof examining the damage. This is worse than I thought. We're looking at a full replacement, not just patches. Another was inspecting the furnace through the basement window. This thing's from 1978. It's a miracle it still runs. John's hands trembled as he pulled out his keys. I should warn you, it's not clean inside. I haven't had the energy to... We don't care about that, Sarge interrupted. We're here to help, not judge. But when John opened the door, even the bikers fell silent. The inside was worse than the outside. Buckets were scattered throughout the living room, catching drips from the leaking roof. The carpet was stained and moldy. The furniture was ancient springs poking through cushions. The kitchen sink was piled with dishes John didn't have the strength to wash. Sarah felt her throat tighten. This was how America treated its heroes. "I know it's bad," John said, voice shaking. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." A female biker named Maria stepped forward. "Stop apologizing. You have nothing to be sorry for." She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. "I'm documenting everything. When we're done here, we're sending these to every news outlet in the country. People need to see this." "No," John said sharply. "Please. I have some pride, lad." "This isn't about pride. This is about accountability. The government did this to you. They need to answer for it." Sarge put his hand on Maria's shoulder. "Later. Right now we focus on fixing, not documenting." Maria nodded reluctantly and put her phone away. The bikers spread throughout the house assessing damage. Every room had something wrong. The bathroom ceiling had a hole. The bedroom window was cracked. The refrigerator was nearly empty, just half a jar of peanut butter and some expired milk. John sat down heavily on the couch springs, groaning beneath him. "I used to keep this place perfect. Martha would be ashamed if she saw it now." "Who's Martha?" Sarah asked gently. "My wife. She died 9 years ago. Cancer. After she passed, I just couldn't find the energy to keep up with everything." "Did she get good care?" John's laugh was bitter. "We spent our entire savings on treatments insurance wouldn't cover. Sold the car, took out a reverse mortgage on this house, and she still died. All that money, all that suffering, and I couldn't save her either." The parallel to Tommy wasn't lost on anyone in the room. A biker named Carlos came up from the basement. "John, when's the last time you had hot water?" 3 months ago, the heater broke. I've been boiling water on the stove for baths." Carlos swore under his breath. "That's getting fixed tonight." "I can't afford." "You're not paying. How many times do we have to tell you that?" Sarah's phone rang. She stepped outside to answer. "Sarah, it's Patricia Chen. The story just aired on the 6 o'clock news. We're getting calls from everywhere. The governor's office wants to make a statement. The VA secretary is claiming they're investigating." "This is exploding." "Good, it should explode." "There's something else. We got a call from a man named Richard Winters, says he's John's son." Sarah's blood ran cold. John never mentioned a son. "That's what I thought was strange. This Richard guy says he and his father haven't spoken in 15 years. He wants to come see him." "Does John know?" "Not yet. I wanted to check with you first. Something feels off about this." "Give me his number. I'll call him." Patricia rattled off the number and Sarah dialed immediately. A man answered on the second ring. "This is Richard." "Mr. Winters, this is Sarah Mallory. I'm helping your father. Patricia Chen said you called." "Is it true about the medals, about him trying to sell them?" "Yes, it's true." There was a long pause. "I can't believe it got that bad." "When's the last time you saw him?" 15 years ago, we had a fight. I said some things. He said some things. We never spoke again." "What did you fight about?" Richard's voice cracked. "Money. I was going through a divorce and I asked him for help. He said no, said he and Mom had their own problems. I called him selfish, told him he was a terrible father. I was angry and broke, and I took it out on him." "And you never reached out again?" "I tried. 3 years ago, I sent him a letter, apologizing, asking if we could talk. He never responded." Sarah felt her chest tighten. "He might not have gotten it. His mind isn't what it used to be. He forgets things." "Is he okay mentally? I mean, he has good days and bad days. Today's been overwhelming." "Can I see him? I know I don't deserve it, but I need to see my father." Sarah looked back at the house. Through the window, she could see John sitting on the couch, surrounded by bikers who were treating him like family. "Let me ask him." "But Richard, if you come here and hurt him, these bikers will destroy you. Just so we're clear." "I understand. I just want to make things right." Sarah hung up and went back inside. John was eating a sandwich one of the bikers had made him, tears streaming down his face. "I forgot what real food tasted like," he whispered. "John," Sarah said carefully, "there's something I need to tell you." He looked up at her and she saw fear flash across his face. "What's wrong?" "Your son called, Richard. He saw the news. He wants to come see you. The sandwich fell from John's hands. His face went pale. No, he said. Absolutely not. John, how are you? I said no. That boy made his choice 15 years ago. He doesn't get to come back now just because I'm on TV. Sarge knelt in front of him. What happened between you two? He asked me for money during his divorce. I just spent everything we had on Martha's treatments. We had nothing left to give. He called me selfish, said I never cared about him, said Martha and I were always more concerned with ourselves than with our only son. Did you try to explain about Martha? He didn't want to hear it. He said his problems were more important than ours, that we were old and had already lived our lives. He was only 40. He deserved help more than we did. The bikers exchanged glances. This was complicated. What did you do? Sarge asked. I told him to leave, and he did. I haven't seen him since. He says he sent you a letter 3 years ago. John's face scrunched up, trying to remember. A letter? I don't recall any letter. Sarah's heart sank. The memory loss was worse than she thought. He wants to apologize, she said gently. He wants to make things right. It's too late for that. He had 15 years to make things right. Where was he when Martha died? Where was he when I couldn't afford groceries? He doesn't get to show up now and play the concerned son. Maybe he didn't know things were this bad. He didn't ask. He didn't care enough to check. John's voice was rising, getting shaky. Maria rushed to get him water. Drink this, she said. Slow breaths. John gulped the water, hands shaking so badly he spilled it down his shirt. I can't see him, he said. I can't handle any more emotions today. I'm all used up. That's fair, Sarge said. We'll tell him to wait. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. On your timeline, not his. But before Sarah could call Richard back, headlights swept across the living room window. A car was pulling into the driveway. Who's that? John asked. Sarah looked out the window and cursed. It's a news van, and there's another one, and another. Within minutes, 5 news vans were parked on the street. Reporters were setting up cameras. How did they find the house? Maria demanded. Public record. Patricia's voice came from the doorway. She just arrived. I'm sorry, John. I tried to keep the address private, but someone leaked it. The bikers immediately formed a perimeter around the house. No one was getting to John without going through them first. A reporter knocked on the door. Sarge answered. We'd like to speak with Mr. Winters. He's not taking visitors. The public has a right to know. The public can wait. He's exhausted. Another reporter pushed forward. Is it true his son abandoned him? John made a strangled sound from the couch. Sarge's expression went dark. Get off this property. Now. We're on the sidewalk, public property. Then stay on the sidewalk, but if any of you step 1 foot onto his lawn, we're going to have problems. More cars were arriving. Not just news vans now. Regular people. They were parking on the street, getting out, walking toward the house with flowers and food and cards. This is insane, Sarah muttered. An elderly woman approached the bikers. I brought soup. Can I give it to Mr. Winters? Sarge examined her carefully. What kind of soup? Chicken noodle. My grandmother's recipe. I heard he was hungry. Sarge took the soup and handed it to Maria, who brought it inside. Tell her thank you, John said quietly. More people kept coming. A young mother with her children brought a homemade pie. A man in a business suit brought a check for $500. A teenager brought his allowance money, $32, in crumpled bills. Each person handed their gift to the bikers, who brought them inside. Soon the kitchen counter was covered with food and cards and money. John watched it all from the couch, unable to process what was happening. They don't even know me, he kept repeating. They know what you represent, Patricia said gently. You're every forgotten veteran, every delayed check, every broken promise. People are angry, John, and they're showing that anger through kindness. A loud engine roar cut through the noise. A pickup truck pulled up, bed filled with lumber and roofing supplies. A man climbed out mid-50s with a tool belt. I'm Mike Patterson. I own a construction company 2 towns over. Heard you needed a new roof. I brought supplies and a crew. We start tomorrow at dawn. Another truck pulled up behind him. Then another. Soon there were 6 construction vehicles parked on the street. We're all donating our time, Mike said. Supplies, labor, everything. This house is getting a complete renovation, free of charge. John tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. I can't accept all this. It's too much. You don't have a choice, Mike said firmly. It's happening whether you like it or not. We're Americans and we take care of our own, even if our government won't. More headlights. This time it was a large van. The side read, Valley Home Medical Supply. A woman got out carrying boxes. I'm Jennifer Walsh. We're donating a hospital bed wheelchair walker and emergency alert system. Where should we set it up? The bikers directed her to the bedroom. I don't need a hospital bed, John protested. Yes, you do, Maria said. Your mattress has springs poking through. You're sleeping on that thing tonight. But no buts. This is happening. John looked at Sarge desperately. This is too much. Tell them it's too much. It's not enough, Sarge said. It'll never be enough to make up for what you've been through. So just sit there and let people help. Sarah's phone rang again. She was almost afraid to answer. Sarah Mallory. Yes. This is Amanda Foster with the White House press office. The president would like to speak with Mr. Winters. Sarah nearly dropped the phone. The president? The entire room went silent. Every head turned toward her. Yes, he's been following the story. He'd like to call Mr. Winters tonight if possible. Hold on. Sarah covered the phone. John, the president wants to call you. John laughed a slightly hysterical sound. Sure, why not? At this point, nothing surprises me anymore. When Sarah asked into the phone, 10 minutes. We'll call this number. Sarah hung up and looked at John. The President of the United States is calling you in 10 minutes. John put his face in his hands. This is a dream. I'm dreaming. Or I'm dead. Maybe I'm dead and this is heaven. You're not dead, Sarge said. You're just finally getting what you deserve. Maria was frantically trying to clean up the living room. Other bikers were organizing the food donations. Everyone was moving with purpose, trying to make the space presentable for a presidential call. Does it matter what the room looks like? John asked. He can't see through the phone. It matters to us, Maria said. 8 minutes later, the room was as clean as they could make it. The buckets were emptied and hidden. The dishes were washed. The worst of the clutter was cleared. John sat on the couch, freshly changed into a clean shirt one of the bikers had brought. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. What do I say to the president? The truth, Sarge said, same as you told everyone else. 2 minutes later, Sarah's phone rang. She put it on speaker and handed it to John. Hello? John's voice cracked. Mr. Winters, this is President Matthews. First, let me say thank you for your service to this country. John's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Mr. President. I saw your story on the news tonight. I have to tell you I'm ashamed. Ashamed that a man who stormed Normandy Beach was forced to sell his medals for groceries. That's unacceptable. It's not your fault, sir. It's all our faults. The VA Congress, the entire system. We've failed our veterans. We've failed you. And I'm going to fix it. How do I? I'm issuing an executive order tomorrow. Any veteran whose benefits are delayed for any reason will receive an emergency payment within 48 hours. No exceptions, no red tape. It's a stopgap measure until Congress can pass comprehensive reform. John couldn't speak. He just sat there, tears streaming down his face. Mr. Winters, are you there? I'm here, sir. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just know that your sacrifice mattered. It still matters. And I'm going to make sure every veteran in this country knows they matter too. Thank you, John whispered. I'd like to invite you to the White House. Next week, if you're feeling up to it. I want to present you with a special commendation, and I want you there when I sign the executive order. Your story started this. You should be there when we fix it. I'll be there, John said, voice stronger now. Good. My staff will coordinate everything, and Mr. Winters, keep those medals. They belong to you. They represent the best of what America can be. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you have to give them up. I won't, sir. God bless you, Mr. Winters, and God bless the United States of America. The line went dead. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then Sarge started clapping. The other bikers joined in. Soon the entire room was applauding. John sat there, phone still in his hand, staring at nothing. I'm going to the White House, he said softly. The president invited me to the White House. You deserve it, Sarah said. Tommy should be here for this. He was the brave one. He was the one who deserved medals and recognition. Not me. An old biker with white hair stepped forward. My name's Earl. I was in Vietnam. Lost my best friend to a sniper. I carried the same guilt you're carrying for 40 years. You know what finally helped? John shook his head. Realizing that my friend didn't die so I could spend the rest of my life miserable. He died so I could live. Really live. Honor his sacrifice by being happy. By accepting good things when they come. By believing I deserve them. But I couldn't save him. Neither could I. But I can save his memory by living well. By helping others. By making sure his death meant something. Earl knelt in front of John. Your friend Tommy, he'd be proud of you right now. Not for the medals, for surviving, for fighting, for finally letting people help. John's face crumpled. I miss him so much. I know, but he's not really gone. He's in every good thing you do, every life you touch, every veteran you help by telling your story. That's how he lives on. Before John could respond, there was a commotion outside. Shouting. Raised voices. Sarge went to the window. We've got a problem. What now? Maria asked. There's a man trying to get through the perimeter. Says he's John's son. John's entire body went rigid. Richard. Should we let him through? Sarge asked. I don't know. I don't know if I can handle this right now. Sarah looked out the window. Richard Winters stood at the edge of the property arguing with two bikers. He was in his mid-50s, graying hair, wearing a rumpled suit. His face was red and tear-stained. Please, Richard was saying, I just need to see my father. Just for 5 minutes. He doesn't want to see you, one of the bikers said. I know I don't deserve it. But please, I've been watching the news all day, seeing what my father's been going through, knowing I could have helped. I should have helped. I need to apologize. You had 15 years to apologize. I was too proud, too stubborn. I was wrong and I know it, and I just need him to hear me say it. Richard's voice broke completely. He fell to his knees on the sidewalk sobbing. Inside the house, John listened to his son crying, his hands clenched into fists. What do you want to do? Sarge asked gently. John stood up slowly. I need to see him. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. The bikers parted as John walked to the door. He stepped outside, moving carefully down the broken porch steps. Richard looked up and saw his father. He scrambled to his feet. Dad. Richard. They stared at each other across the lawn. 15 years of silence hung between them. I'm sorry, Richard said. I'm so sorry. I was selfish and cruel, and I said things I didn't mean. I hurt you when you were already hurting, and I've regretted it every single day since. John said nothing. I sent you a letter 3 years ago. Did you get it? I don't remember a letter. Of course you don't, because I'm such a coward that I sent a letter instead of showing up in person, instead of swallowing my pride and knocking on your door. Why are you here now? Because I saw you on TV trying to sell your medals, and I realized what a piece of garbage I've been. My father is a war hero who can't afford to eat, and I've been living in a nice house with a good job, and I never once checked on you. What kind of son does that? The kind of son who was hurt and angry. That's no excuse. No, John said quietly. It's not, but I understand it. I was hurt and angry too. Richard took a step forward. Can you forgive me? John was quiet for a long time. Everyone waited. I don't know, he said finally. I'd like to, but I don't know if I can. That's fair. That's more than fair. Richard wiped his eyes. Can I at least help with the house, with whatever you need? These people are already helping. Then let me help them help you. Please, Dad. I need to do something. I need to feel like I'm not completely worthless. John looked at his son, really looked at him. He saw his own eyes, Martha's nose, the family resemblance, undeniable. He also saw regret, real genuine regret. Okay, John said, you can stay, you can help. But Richard, yes. If you hurt me again, I won't survive it. I'm too old and too tired. So if you're going to stay, you stay all the way. No disappearing, no more 15-year silences. Richard nodded frantically. I promise. I swear to God, I promise. Then come inside. Richard crossed the lawn slowly like he was approaching something sacred. When he reached his father, he stopped. Can I hug you? John hesitated, then nodded. Richard wrapped his arms around his father and held on tight. Both men were crying. The bikers watched in silence, many of them wiping their own eyes. This was healing in real time, broken families mending, old wounds closing. Sarge put his hand on Sarah's shoulder. That's the real miracle. Not the money or the fame or the presidential call. This, a father and son finding each other again. Do you think it'll last? Sarah whispered. I hope so, for both their sakes. Inside the house, Richard looked around at the damage, the buckets, the peeling paint. Dad, how long has it been like this? A while. Why didn't you call me? You made it clear you didn't want to be called. That was 15 years ago. People change. Do they? John's voice was sharp. Or do they just feel guilty when they see their father on TV? Richard flinched like he'd been slapped. That's fair. I deserve that. Yes, you did. They stood there, the air thick with tension. Maria broke the silence. Anyone hungry? We've got enough food to feed an army. The tension broke slightly. Richard laughed, watery and weak. I could eat. The bikers set out the donated food on every available surface. There were casseroles and pies and sandwiches and fruit and more cookies than anyone could count. John sat down with a plate, Richard beside him. They ate in awkward silence while the bikers moved around them, continuing to organize and plan the renovation. Good Morning America wants you at 6 a.m., Sarah reminded John. We should get you to bed soon. I don't think I can sleep. Try anyway. Tomorrow's going to be even crazier than today. John looked at the hospital bed that had been set up in his room, brand new with clean sheets and a remote control. I don't deserve any of this, he said for the 100th time. And for the 100th time, someone corrected him. Yes, Richard said quietly. You do. John didn't sleep. He lay in the hospital bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of bikers working throughout his house. Hammers, drills, quiet conversations. At 3 a.m, someone was still fixing his plumbing. Richard had fallen asleep in a chair beside the bed, head tilted at an awkward angle, snoring softly. John watched his son sleep and felt something crack open inside his chest. 15 years of anger, and the man still looked like the little boy who used to crawl into bed during thunderstorms. You awake? Sarge's voice came from the doorway. Yeah. Can't sleep either. Too much going on in my head. Sarge pulled up another chair. Want to talk about it? John was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about what happens after. After what? After the news cameras leave. After the bikers go home. After everyone forgets about the old man who tried to sell his medals. We're not forgetting. Everyone says that. But life moves on. People get busy. And I'll be right back here by waiting for the next check to get delayed. You really think we'd let that happen? I think people mean well. But meaning well and following through are different things. Sarge leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Let me tell you something about the Hells Angels. We're not a charity organization. We're not here because it makes us feel good. We're here because we take care of our brothers. And once you're a brother for life. I'm not a Hells Angel. You are now, whether you ride or not. You're family, and family doesn't disappear. Richard stirred in his sleep, mumbling something incoherent. What about him? John asked, gesturing to his son. What happens when the guilt wears off and he remembers why he left in the first place? Do you want him to leave? I don't know what I want. Part of me wants to forgive him. Part of me wants to tell him to go to hell. Both can be true. How do I know he means it this time? You don't. You have to take a leap of faith. John laughed bitterly. I'm 96 years old. I don't have enough time left for leaps of faith. Then make the time you have count. Die angry and alone or die with your son by your side. Your choice. Before John could respond, his phone rang. Sarah's number at 3 a.m. Hello. John, I'm so sorry to call this late, but you need to see this. Sarah's voice was tight with emotion. See what? The GoFundMe. It just hit $100,000. The phone nearly slipped from John's hand. That's not possible. I'm looking at it right now. $103,642. And it's still climbing. Richard jerked awake. What's happening? Someone just donated $10,000, Sarah continued. Anonymous. The note says, for every veteran who ever went hungry, thank you for your service. John couldn't breathe. His chest felt tight. John, are you okay? Sarge was on his feet. I need air. They helped him out of bed, out of the room onto the newly repaired back porch. The night air was cool, stars overhead. The sound of power tools had finally stopped. $100,000, John whispered. What am I supposed to do with $100,000? Live, Sarge said simply. Just live. I don't know how anymore. I've spent so long just surviving. Richard appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Dad, are you all right? I don't know. I honestly don't know. The GoFundMe hit 100,000, Sarge explained. Richard's eyes went wide. Jesus. Don't take the Lord's name in vain, John said automatically, then laughed at himself. Listen to me. After everything, I'm still worried about language. Some habits die hard, Richard said. He moved to stand beside his father, keeping a respectful distance. Mom used to yell at me for that too. She had strong opinions about proper speech. She had strong opinions about everything. For the first time in 15 years, John smiled thinking about Martha. Yes, she did. I'm sorry I wasn't there when she died. The smile disappeared. So am I. I didn't know she was sick. If I had known, would you have come? Richard opened his mouth, then closed it, honest enough to admit he didn't know. That's what I thought, John said. I was angry, Dad. I was going through hell with the divorce and I took it out on you, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You said that already. I'll keep saying it until you believe me. It's not about believing you. It's about trusting you. And trust takes time. How much time? However long it takes. Sarah came outside, phone in hand. The news crews are setting up already. Good Morning America wants you ready in 2 hours. It's 3 a.m. I know, but they want footage of the bikers working on the house. They want to capture everything. John looked back at his house. Through the windows, he could see bikers moving around, still working, despite the hour. When do these people sleep? They're taking shifts, Sarge explained. Some sleep while others work. We'll have your roof done by noon. That's impossible. Watch us. A biker named Tommy walked out onto the porch. Sorry to interrupt, but John, we found something in your attic. What kind of something? A box. Looks old, military stuff. We didn't want to go through it without asking. John frowned. I don't remember putting anything in the attic. Could be Martha's, Richard offered. She was always storing things up there. They went inside and climbed the attic stairs. The space was cramped and dusty, but the bikers had already cleared out most of the water-damaged items. Tommy pointed to a green military footlocker in the corner. That one. John's breath caught. He knew that footlocker. Dad? Richard asked. What is it? That's Tommy's. Tommy Rodriguez, your friend who died. After the war, his family sent me his personal effects. They didn't want them. Said it hurt too much to look at. I put the box up here and never opened it. 78 years, Sarge said quietly. You've been carrying it for 78 years. John knelt in front of the footlocker. His hands shook as he reached for the latch. Are you sure you want to do this? Richard asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. The latch clicked open. John lifted the lid. Inside were photos, letters, a harmonica, dog tags, and a journal. John picked up the journal with trembling hands. Tommy's handwriting on the cover, Thomas Rodriguez, Private First Class. He kept a journal, John whispered. I never knew. Maybe you should read it, Sarge suggested gently. John opened to a random page. The entry was dated December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge. Cold today. Johnny made us laugh by doing impressions of the sergeant. Kid's got a gift for comedy. Keeps our spirits up when everything else is trying to drag us down. Don't know what I'd do without him. John's vision blurred. He thought I kept his spirits up. He flipped to another entry, June 1944, right after D-Day. Johnny saved my life today. Pulled me behind cover when the bullets started flying. I froze. Just stood there like an idiot. But Johnny grabbed me and hauled me to safety. I owe him everything. Dad, Richard said softly. Keep reading. John found the last entry, the day before Tommy died. If something happens to me, I hope Johnny knows he's the best friend I ever had. He's the bravest man I know, even though he doesn't believe it. He saved 5 guys from a burning tank last week. They're giving him a medal. He deserves 100 medals. He deserves to make it home. If one of us has to die, I hope it's me. Johnny's got too much life in him to waste in this war. John's hands were shaking so hard he dropped the journal. Richard picked it up and kept reading aloud. I made Johnny promise me something last night. If I don't make it, he has to live enough for both of us. No survivor's guilt, no punishing himself. Just living, really living, being happy. That's all I want, for Johnny to be happy. The attic was silent except for John's ragged breathing. He didn't want you to suffer, Sarge said, but I did. For 78 years I suffered. Then stop, Richard said, voice cracking. Stop suffering. Honor his memory by doing what he asked. Be happy. John looked at his son, tears streaming down both their faces. I don't know if I remember how. Then learn. We'll help you. Maria appeared at the top of the attic stairs. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the Good Morning America crew is here. They want to start in 30 minutes. John wiped his eyes. I can't go on TV like this. Yes, you can, Sarge said. You go on exactly like this. Raw, honest, real. That's what people need to see. 20 minutes later, John was sitting in his living room wearing the same Hells Angels vest from yesterday. The news crew had set up lights and cameras. Robin Roberts herself was there, having flown in overnight. Mr. Winters, thank you for doing this, she said, shaking his hand. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. Just tell your story. That's all anyone wants to hear. The cameras started rolling. Robin began with softballs, where he was from, how long he'd lived in Denton, his service record. Then she got to the hard questions. Mr. Winters, when you walked into that pawn shop yesterday, what were you thinking? I was thinking I'd failed as a man, failed as a veteran, failed as someone who was supposed to be able to take care of himself. And now, after everything that's happened, John looked around the room, at the bikers who'd worked all night, at Sarah who'd refused to let him sell his medals, at Richard who'd come back after 15 years, at the news crew broadcasting his story to millions. Now I'm thinking maybe I didn't fail. Maybe I just forgot how to ask for help. What do you want people to know? John took a deep breath. I want them to know that there are thousands of veterans out there just like me. Proud, struggling, too ashamed to ask for help. And I want them to know that it's okay to ask, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's survival. What would you say to veterans watching this right now? I'd say you're not alone. I thought I was alone. I thought nobody cared. But I was wrong. People do care. They just need to know you need help. So tell someone, call the VA, call a friend, call these bikers. He gestured to Sarge. Just don't suffer in silence like I did. Robin turned to Sarge. And the Hells Angels. What made your organization step up? This is what we do. We take care of veterans. It's not charity, it's duty. These men and women bled for our freedom. The least we can do is make sure they can eat. You've mobilized hundreds of bikers across multiple states. And we'll mobilize thousands more if we have to. This isn't stopping with John Winters. We're creating a network. Every chapter is going to start a Veterans Assistance Program. Food, housing, medical care, whatever they need. Robin's eyes were shining. That's incredible. It's necessary. She turned back to John. I understand your son is here. Richard stepped into frame looking uncomfortable. Yes, ma'am. You two hadn't spoken in 15 years. No, ma'am. What changed? Richard looked at his father. I saw him on TV trying to sell his medals, and I realized what a selfish coward I'd been. My father is a hero, and I treated him like he didn't matter. I'm here to make that right. Mr. Winters, how do you feel about your son being here? John was quiet for a long moment. I'm not sure yet. Part of me is angry. Part of me is grateful. Mostly I'm just tired of being angry. Life's too short. Are you willing to forgive him? I'm willing to try now. Robin smiled. That's all any of us can do. The interview continued for another 20 minutes. They talked about the GoFundMe, the presidential call, the outpouring of support. Finally, Robin asked the question John had been dreading. What about Tommy Rodriguez, the friend you mentioned trying to save? John's jaw tightened. What about him? Do you think he'd be proud of what's happening? John pulled out the journal he'd found in the attic. We found this last night, Tommy's journal. I never knew he kept one. He opened to the last entry and read it aloud, voice breaking on every other word. If one of us has to die, I hope it's me. Johnny's got too much life in him to waste in this war. Robin was crying openly now, so was her cameraman. He wanted you to live, she said softly. Yes. And have you really lived? John thought about the last 78 years. The guilt, the loneliness, the slow decline into poverty. No, he admitted. I've just been surviving. What are you going to do differently now? John looked at the journal, then at the bikers, then at his son. I'm going to try to be happy. For Tommy, for myself, for everyone who didn't make it home. Robin reached across and squeezed his hand. That's beautiful. After the interview ended, Robin stayed for another hour talking off camera. She told John about her own father, a veteran who'd struggled with PTSD. He never asked for help either, she said. Died alone in his apartment. We didn't find him for 3 days. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just keep telling your story. You are saving lives right now. You know that, right? Some veteran is watching this and realizing they don't have to suffer alone. As Robin's crew packed up, more news vans arrived. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, local stations from 6 different states. This is insane, Sarah muttered. This is America, Sarge corrected. When we decide to pay attention, we pay attention. John did 3 more interviews before noon. Each time he got a little stronger, a little more comfortable. His message never wavered. Ask for help. You're not alone. We care. During a break, his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Mr. Winters, this is Colonel James Hartley, U.S. Army retired. I run a veterans advocacy group. After seeing your interview this morning, we've received 400 calls from veterans needing help. 400 in 3 hours. John felt dizzy. 400. Your story opened the floodgates. Veterans who've been suffering in silence are finally reaching out. We're overwhelmed, but it's a good overwhelmed. What do you need from me? Keep doing what you're doing. Keep telling your story. Every time you speak, more veterans find the courage to ask for help. After he hung up, John sat in silence. 400 people, he said to no one in particular. 400 people who might have died alone, Sarge said, but won't, because of you. Outside, the construction crew was finishing the roof. True to their word, it was done by noon. New shingles, new gutters, structurally sound for the first time in 6 years. The furnace was replaced by 2, the water heater by 4, the plumbing updated, the electrical rewired. At this rate, you'll have a brand new house by tomorrow, Richard observed. I don't need a brand new house. No, but you deserve one. By 3 o'clock, the GoFundMe had hit $200,000. By 5, it was at $300,000. Sarah was tracking every donation, every comment, every share. You're trending on Twitter, she told John. #1 worldwide. What does that mean? It means everyone's talking about you. I don't want everyone talking about me. Too late for that. A limo pulled up outside. A man in a suit got out carrying a briefcase. Who's that? John asked. Sarge went outside to check. He came back looking stunned. That's Mark Cuban, the billionaire. He wants to talk to you about funding a nationwide veterans support network. Says your story inspired him. John laughed, slightly hysterical. A billionaire wants my advice. He wants to help. Let him. Mark Cuban sat in John's newly repaired living room and laid out his vision. A network of support centers in every major city. 24/7 hotlines. Emergency funds, job placement, housing assistance. I'm pledging $10 million to start, he said. But I need a face for the campaign. Someone people trust. Someone who represents what we're fighting for. You want me? John asked. I want you. I'm 96 years old. Perfect. You're proof that we've been failing our veterans for decades. You're proof that it has to stop. I don't know anything about running a nonprofit. You don't have to. I'll handle the business side. You just keep telling your story. John looked at Sarge. What do you think? I think Tommy would tell you to do it. That settled it. Okay, John said, I'm in. Mark Cuban smiled and pulled out a contract. This makes you the official spokesperson for the Veterans First Initiative. Salaried is $200,000 a year. John choked. $200,000. For appearances, interviews, speaking engagements. You'll earn every penny. I've never made more than $40,000 in my life. You're about to. After Mark left, John sat on his new couch in his repaired living room and tried to process the last 24 hours. Yesterday, he was trying to sell his medals for groceries. Today, he was a millionaire spokesman for a veterans initiative, invited to the White House trending worldwide. "This can't be real," he said. "It's real," Richard assured him. "I'm watching it happen, and I still don't believe it." Sarge's phone rang. He answered, listened, then his face went pale. "Turn on the news," he said, "any channel." Sarah grabbed the remote. Every station was showing the same thing. The VA secretary had resigned. Following the John Winters story, the news anchor was saying, "The VA secretary has stepped down, citing failure to protect vulnerable veterans. The president has announced a complete overhaul of the benefits system." John stared at the screen, unable to speak. One story, one pawn shop, one Facebook post, and the entire system was changing. "You did this," Sarah whispered. "I didn't do anything. I just tried to sell my medals. And you changed the world." The phone rang again, and again, and again. Oprah wanted an interview. The Today Show, 60 Minutes, Ellen. Everyone wanted a piece of the 96-year-old veteran who'd brought the system to its knees. John looked at Tommy's journal, still sitting on the coffee table. "I hope this is what you meant," he whispered. "I hope this counts as living." And somewhere, somehow, he felt like Tommy was smiling. The White House called at 6 in the morning, 3 days after John's story broke. Richard answered the phone because John was finally sleeping. Truly sleeping for the first time in years. "This is Chief of Staff Morrison. We need to move up Mr. Winters' visit. The president wants him here tomorrow." "Tomorrow? That's impossible. He's exhausted. He's done 32 interviews in 3 days." "I understand, but the executive order is being signed tomorrow at noon. The president wants Mr. Winters on that stage. This is his moment." Richard looked at his father, still asleep in the hospital bed. The old man looked peaceful. Younger somehow. The constant worry had lifted from his face. "I'll ask him when he wakes up." "There's a private jet waiting at the municipal airport. Wheels up at 10 a.m. I strongly suggest he's on it." After Richard hung up, he sat beside his father's bed and waited. John woke an hour later, blinking against the morning light streaming through new windows. "What time is it?" 7. The White House called. John groaned. "What do they want now?" "You tomorrow. They're signing the executive order and they want you there." "Tomorrow? I haven't even packed." "We'll pack for you, but Dad, you need to decide if you're really up for this." John pushed himself upright. His body ached from 3 days of constant movement and stress. But his mind was clearer than it had been in months. "I'm going. Tommy's journal said I should live. This is living." Sarah arrived 30 minutes later with clothes she'd bought using GoFundMe money. A new suit, new shoes, everything tailored to fit John's thin frame. "Try these on," she said, laying everything on the bed. John looked at the price tags and nearly fainted. "This suit costs $2,000. You're meeting the president. You're not wearing something from Walmart. I've never owned anything this expensive. Get used to it. You're a spokesman now. Image matters." While John changed, Sarge gathered the bikers for a meeting outside. "We've got a problem," he said quietly. "Death threats." Maria's face went hard. "Against John? 3 so far, all anonymous, all claiming he's a fraud using the system for attention. Are they credible? FBI's investigating, but we're not taking chances. 6 of us are going to Washington with him, full security detail." "I'm going too," Keith Brennan said. The Marine veteran who'd confronted them that first day had become one of John's most devoted protectors. "Good. We need all the eyes we can get." Inside, John was struggling with his tie. Richard stepped in to help. "Here, let me." Their hands touched briefly as Richard adjusted the knot. It was the first physical contact they'd had since the hug that first night. "Thank you," John said quietly. "For what?" "Staying. I thought you'd leave once the cameras went away." "The cameras haven't gone away." "You know what I mean?" Richard finished the tie and stepped back. "I'm not leaving, Dad. Not again, I promise." "People break promises." "Not this one. I swear on Mom's grave." John's eyes filled with tears. "Don't make promises you can't keep." "I'm not. I quit my job." "What?" "Yesterday I quit. I'm moving back to Denton. I'm going to help you with all this, the foundation, the interviews, everything. You had a good job, a life. I had a hollow existence. This matters. You matter. Mom would want me here." John pulled his son into a hug, both men crying again. Sarah knocked gently. I hate to interrupt, but the car's here. We need to get to the airport. The drive to the municipal airport took 20 minutes. News vans followed them the entire way. At the airport, a sleek private jet waited, engines already running. John stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I've never flown in anything like this. First time for everything, Sarge said, guiding him up. The interior was luxury incarnate, leather seats, mahogany trim, a full bar. This is how the other half lives, Keith muttered. John sat in a window seat, pressing his face to the glass like a child. I can't believe this is happening. The jet took off smoothly. John watched Texas disappear below, replaced by clouds. His phone rang. Patricia Chen. John, the GoFundMe just hit $5 million. He nearly dropped the phone. 5 million, 5.2 actually, and Mark Cuban matched it. The Veterans First Initiative is launching with over 10 million in funding. That's impossible. That's America when it decides to care. How are you feeling? Terrified, grateful, overwhelmed. That's normal. Call me after the signing. I want an exclusive interview. After she hung up, John stared out the window, trying to process everything. You okay? Richard asked. No, but I'm getting used to not being okay. 2 hours later, they landed in Washington. 3 black SUVs waited on the tarmac. Secret Service, Sarge explained. You're considered a VIP now. The motorcade drove through D.C. sirens, clearing traffic. John watched the monuments pass by. The Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, the Capitol Building. I was here once before, he said. 1946, Victory Parade. I was 20 years old and I thought I owned the world. How does it feel now? Like I'm 20 again, in 96, in every age in between. They pulled up to a hotel, not just any hotel. The Willard Intercontinental. President, stay here, the driver said. You're in the Lincoln Suite. The suite was bigger than John's entire house. A bedroom, a living room, a dining room, marble bathrooms. John stood in the middle of it all, turning slowly. This is too much. Get comfortable with too much, Sarge advised. This is your life now. A knock at the door. Secret Service entered first, then a woman in a sharp pantsuit. Mr. Winters, I'm Jennifer Ross, White House Deputy Communications Director. We need to prep you for tomorrow. Prep me how? The president will make a speech. You'll stand beside him. When he signs the executive order, you'll be in the shot. After, you'll say a few words. 3 minutes maximum. What do I say? Whatever's in your heart, but keep it focused. Thank the president. Thank the American people. Talk about the need for change. I'm not a speechwriter. You don't need to be. Just be honest. That's what got you here. They rehearsed for 2 hours. John stumbled through his words, nervous and uncertain. Jennifer remained patient. You're overthinking it. Tomorrow, just speak from the heart. That evening, Richard ordered room service, steaks, lobster. John stared at his plate. I haven't eaten like this since my wedding. Enjoy it. I feel guilty. Why? Because there are veterans out there eating out of trash cans while I'm in a suite eating lobster. That's exactly why you're here, to make sure they don't have to eat out of trash cans anymore. John picked up his fork, but his hands were shaking too badly. Richard quietly cut his meat for him. I hate being this weak. You're not weak, you're 96. Same thing. No, it's not. Weak is giving up. You're still fighting. After dinner, John stood at the window looking out over Washington. Somewhere out there in the White House, the president was preparing to change policy because of him. Tommy should be here, he whispered. Richard stood beside him. Maybe he is. You don't believe in that stuff. I didn't. But after everything that's happened, I'm starting to. John's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're a fraud. You don't deserve any of this. Real heroes don't beg for attention. He showed it to Sarge, who immediately alerted Secret Service. 4th threat today, Sarge said grimly. They're taking it seriously. Should I be worried? We're worried for you, Al. You just focus on tomorrow. But John couldn't sleep that night. He lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, anxiety eating him alive. What if he messed up the speech? What if he embarrassed himself? What if people realized he wasn't special, just a lucky survivor who'd lived too long? At 3 a.m., he got up and found Richard asleep on the couch phone still in his hand. Richard, John whispered. His son jerked awake. What's wrong? I can't do this. Can't do what? Any of it. The speech, the president, all these people expecting me to be some kind of hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just an old man who got lucky. Richard sat up, rubbing his eyes. You really believe that? Yes. Then you're an idiot. John blinked. Excuse me. You heard me. You're an idiot if you think this is about luck. You survived Normandy. You survived the Battle of the Bulge. You survived losing your best friend. You survived losing Ma. You survived poverty and neglect in a system that tried to kill you through indifference. And you're still here, still fighting. That's not luck, Dad. That's heroism. I tried to sell my medals for groceries. And instead of quietly accepting defeat, you walked into that pawn shop with your head high and your shoes polished. You maintained your dignity even when the world took everything else. That's heroism too. John sat down heavily. I'm scared. Good. Brave people are always scared. They just do it anyway. What if I let everyone down? You won't. You know why? Because you care too much. And caring is the opposite of letting people down. They sat in silence for a while, father and son both afraid of tomorrow, in different ways. I'm glad you came back, John said finally. Me too. Morning came too fast. John was up at 5, showered and dressed by 6. The suit fit perfectly. Sarah had done well. At 10, the motorcade arrived. The drive to the White House took 12 minutes. News helicopters followed overhead. At the gates, security checked everyone. Even Sarge had to go through metal detectors. Welcome to the White House, Mr. Winters, a Marine guard said, saluting. John returned the salute, automatically muscle memory from 78 years ago. Inside the White House was exactly as grand as he'd imagined. High ceilings, portraits of presidents, history in every corner. An aide led them to a waiting room. The president will see you in 5 minutes. John's heart was pounding. Richard squeezed his shoulder. You've got this. The door opened. Not an aide, the president himself. Mr. Winters, President Matthews said, extending his hand. It's an honor. John shook it, too overwhelmed to speak. I've been following your story closely, the president continued. What happened to you should never happen to any veteran. I'm going to make sure it doesn't. Thank you, Mr. President. No, thank you. You've done more for veterans in 3 days than Congress has done in 3 years. You've given them a voice. They talked for 10 minutes. The president asked about John's service, about Tommy, about the medals. I'd like to see them, the president said. John pulled out the velvet box he'd carried from the pawn shop. Inside, the medals gleamed. The president examined each one carefully. These belong in a museum. They belong with me. Yes, they do. I'm sorry anyone ever made you feel differently. At 11:30, they moved to the East Room. Cameras were everywhere. Reporters, dignitaries, veterans organizations. John took his place beside the president's podium, legs shaking. The president's speech was powerful. He talked about duty, sacrifice, the debt America owed its veterans. We failed them, he said bluntly. For too long, we've treated our veterans as expenses instead of investments, as problems instead of solutions. John Winters' story is a wake-up call, and I'm answering it. He held up the executive order. This ensures that no veteran will ever wait more than 48 hours for emergency funds. No more delayed checks. No more bureaucratic nightmares. If you served, we serve you. Period. The room erupted in applause. The president sat at the desk and signed the order with a flourish. Then he stood and handed the pen to John. This is yours. You earned it. John took the pen with trembling hands. Cameras flashed. People cheered. Then the president turned to him. Mr. Winters, would you like to say a few words? This was it. The moment John had been dreading. He stepped to the podium and looked out at the sea of faces. His prepared speech evaporated from his mind. I don't have fancy words, he started, voice shaking. I'm just an old soldier who tried to sell his medals because he was hungry. The room was silent. But I learned something these past few days. I learned that America hasn't forgotten us. They just didn't know we needed help. And once they knew, they moved heaven and earth to fix it. His voice grew stronger. There are thousands of veterans out there suffering in silence, too proud to ask for help, too ashamed to admit they're struggling. I'm here to tell you, please ask, because people care. They want to help. They're just waiting for you to let them. He pulled out Tommy's journal. My best friend Tommy Rodriguez died in a tank fire in 1944. Before he died, he made me promise to live, really live, not just survive. For 78 years, I broke that promise. I survived, but I didn't live. I let guilt and shame consume me. Tears were streaming down his face now. But these past 3 days, I've felt alive for the first time since the war ended. Not because of the money or the fame, because of the people. The bikers who worked all night on my house. The strangers who donated their savings. My son who came back after 15 years. Sarah who refused to let me sell my medals. All of you who cared about an old man you'd never met. He looked directly at the cameras. Tommy, if you're watching from wherever heroes go, I'm finally keeping my promise. I'm living, and I'm going to spend whatever time I have left making sure every veteran knows they can live too. The room exploded. People were crying, applauding. The president embraced him. That was perfect, President Matthews whispered. After the ceremony, John was mobbed by well-wishers. Veterans thanking him. Politicians promising support. Reporters shouting questions. Secret Service eventually extracted him, bringing him to a private room. You need rest, the lead agent said. But John didn't want rest. For the first time in decades, he felt energized. I want to visit the VA hospital. Are there veterans there? Mr. Winters, you've done enough for today. I haven't done anything. I just talked. I want to do something. 30 minutes later, the motorcade pulled up to the Washington 5A Medical Center. John walked through the halls, stopping at every room. He met a Marine who'd lost both legs in Afghanistan, a Navy veteran with PTSD so severe she couldn't sleep, an Army Ranger dying of cancer with no family. John sat with each one. He listened. He shared his story. He held their hands. You matter, he told them. Never forget that you matter. By the time they left, every veteran in that hospital knew John Winters' name. And more importantly, they knew they weren't forgotten. Back at the hotel, John collapsed in exhaustion. But it was a good exhaustion, the kind that comes from purpose. How do you feel? Richard asked. Tired, happy, useful. You were always useful. No, I was always surviving. Now I'm useful. The next morning, they flew back to Texas. At the Denton airport, hundreds of people waited. Signs, flowers, cheers. John stepped off the plane and the crowd erupted. Welcome home, John. We love you. Thank you for your service. Keith Brennan appeared now wearing a Hells Angels vest of his own. Welcome back, brother. Brother, John repeated, testing the word. He liked how it felt. The motorcade back to his house was a parade. People lined the streets waving flags. Children held signs they'd made in school. When they pulled up to his house, John gasped. It wasn't just repaired, it was transformed. New siding, fresh paint, a ramp for accessibility, solar panels on the new roof. The bikers kept working, Sarge explained. We figured you deserved a real homecoming. Inside, the changes were even more dramatic. New furniture, updated kitchen, bathrooms renovated. Photos of John's service hung on freshly painted walls. And in the living room, a glass case containing Tommy's journal, positioned where John could see it every day. So you never forget to live, Maria said softly. John stood in his transformed home, surrounded by bikers and family and friends, and finally let himself believe it. This was real. The help was real. The love was real. He wasn't alone anymore. Sarah pulled out her laptop. The Veterans First Initiative officially launches next week. They want you at the ribbon cutting. How many centers are we opening? 50 in 50 cities, all because of you. Not because of me, because people decided to care. Same thing, Richard said. Over the next weeks, John's life became a whirlwind. Interviews, speaking engagements, veterans events. But he never complained. This was his purpose now. The GoFundMe eventually topped $8 million. Every penny went to veterans' causes. John kept only what he needed to live comfortably. The rest he gave away. Tommy would approve, he'd say whenever someone questioned his generosity. 6 months after that day in the pawn shop, John stood at the opening of the Dallas Veterans First Initiative Center. It was a beautiful facility, medical care, job training, emergency housing, everything a struggling veteran might need. Mr. Winters want to cut the ribbon, the mayor asked. John looked at the scissors, then at the crowd of veterans gathered to see the center. No, he said. Let them do it. He handed the scissors to a homeless veteran he'd met that morning, a young woman who'd served in Iraq and come home to nothing. This is for all of us, John told her, not just me. She cut the ribbon with tears streaming down her face. That evening, John sat on his new porch with Richard watching the sunset. I've been thinking, Richard said, about the future, your future. You're 96, Dad. You've got money now, security. You could retire, really retire. Stop with the interviews and the travel. John shook his head. I can't. Why not? Because every day I stop a veteran dies alone thinking nobody cares. I can't live with that. You've done enough. There's no such thing as enough, not when people are suffering. Richard smiled. Mom would be proud of you. You think so? I know so. She always said you had a big heart. You just kept it locked up after Tommy died. But it's open now, and it's changing the world. That night, John pulled out Tommy's journal and read the last entry again. If I don't make it, I hope Johnny knows he's the best friend I ever had. I made Johnny promise me something last night. If I don't make it, he has to live enough for both of us. John picked up a pen and wrote in the margin. I kept my promise, Tommy. I'm finally living, and I won't stop until every veteran knows they can live too. He closed the journal and looked at his medals still in their velvet box on the mantel. He'd almost sold them for groceries. Now they represented something bigger. Not his sacrifice, but everyone's sacrifice. Every veteran who'd ever served and struggled and suffered in silence. Those medals weren't going anywhere. They'd stay right there reminding him every day why he fought. Not for glory, not for recognition, but for the brothers and sisters still fighting their own battles at home. John Winters had spent 78 years surviving. Now he was living, and he was going to spend whatever time he had left making sure every forgotten veteran got the same chance. Because that's what heroes do. They don't just save lives in war, they save lives in peace too. One story at a time, one helping hand at a time, one person who decides to care at a time. And John Winters was proof that it only takes one person to change everything. You just have to be brave enough to ask for help, and humble enough to accept it when it comes. The world hadn't forgotten its veterans. It just needed someone to remind them why they mattered. And John had done exactly that. Not by being perfect, not by being superhuman, but by being honest about his struggle and giving others permission to be honest about theirs. In the end, that was the real miracle. Not the money or the fame or the presidential recognition, but the permission to be human, to struggle, to need help, and to accept it without shame. John Winters walked into a pawn shop trying to sell his medals for groceries. He walked out having changed the entire country, and he did it by doing the hardest thing any soldier ever has to do, admitting he couldn't fight alone anymore.